All right, we are back. How we doing today? Welcome to 6G Agenda. Here again to talk about what they won't. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that live we just did with Matt Ehret. It was a great time, very informative. Got real deep into the theosophical ties to technocracy, you could kind of say, but more on the just watching the evolution of kind of the theosophical line of thinking, eugenics, how it all expresses itself in its current iteration of science, and very interesting episode. Definitely check that out. For those that don't know, we do have a membership program you can do on YouTube or Spotify or Patreon. You get everything instant access, so you can go get that episode right now and watch the video version ad free. And yeah, it's a good place to go. $3, nothing crazy. Outside of that, thanks for supporting us with the ads. That helps us. Spreaker puts them in there. And please like and tell a friend. But other than that, Anthropic's AI God cult is going to be the topic of this episode. Kind of covering, this little, I saw, maybe I'll start like this. I saw this Instagram reel and it got me thinking. So I was like, well, I'm going to do an episode on this because after I looked into everything, I was like, I keep seeing a lot of stuff about AI gods, AI pastors, AI government, AI religion, AI cults. So we've also got a very, very popular person named Rick Rubin, who is involved with a cult that worships super intelligent AI, or at least they're looking for big tech donors. Rick Rubin, Anthropic, and AI religious cults. Let's check this out here.
In AI religious cult, there's a lot to unpack here. To set the stage, AI religious cults are already here. This isn't a fringe internet thing. You can find this in the New York Times, MIT, NPR, and Wired recently revealed that Peter Thiel has a secret society focusing on things like cult building. So it should raise eyebrows when Rick Rubin releases a spiritual book in collaboration with Anthropic. The book is the cringiest thing you will ever read. They took the 81 chapters from a Chinese philosopher's spiritual text, ran it through Claude, and this is what came out. If you're going to make a cult, just at least try not to make it so obvious.
Well, I mean, we should almost read some of these pages that
I was trying to just warn people.
Shit. We should almost read some of these pages it has here because he's right. It's just made with like Anthropic. I mean, come on.
And quite frankly, lazy. This is the original, by the way. So let's start with his podcast named Tetragrammaton. That is a Jewish word for the unspeakable name of God. Christians know this word as Yahweh. Yes, Rick Rubin's podcast is named Yahweh. Yes, that same podcast where he's interviewed Peter Thiel and a bunch of dead people using AI like Marlon Brando, or a Nobel Prize winning physicist. But perhaps nothing is more problematic from his interview from a month ago where he interviewed Bryce Crawford. If you don't know him already, Bryce Crawford is a Jesus podcast bro. And you can't be a podcast bro without your own Jesus energy drink, interviewing Christians like Tristan Tate, Andrew Tate's brother, 6ix9ine, Nicki Minaj, and America's richest pastor, a person notorious for not paying taxes. It's not a coincidence that Anthropic wrote a spiritual text with.
Can AI be a child of God? I can't wait to show you later where, Joe Rogan's talking about how Jesus was born, immaculate conception. And what's the difference between that and AI, right? So this is spreading throughout the zeitgeist here pretty quickly. But yeah, let's keep going with this and we'll uncover everything.
With Rick Rubin, and then is working with faith-based leaders. They're trying to create a world in which AI will be a substitute for faith, or a faith on its own. And this lifelong grifter is going to be the face of it. And if you're trying to push this technology, it makes all the sense in the world because he's one of the few.
Now, it's funny because what is Jay-Z known for? Well, I shouldn't say that. In the conspiracy world, he's known to have an affinity for Aleister Crowley, right? So it's very funny. Crowley has a Jay-Z connection. And I think that, Rick Rubin and, this whole theosophical, we just had this discussion, connects with, of course, the Crowleyan ideology as well.
Individuals who can navigate the worlds of spirituality and culture. Name one other person who can get away with interviewing Jay-Z for an 8-part docuseries, and RFK Jr. Everything he does goes
And Rick Rubin is known as like the music guru. He's the guy you go to if you're a musician and you want, some help with some creative intention that maybe you're not able to, apply right now because of blockage, let's say, right? Because he's a guru, a new age guru. And so he'll help you through that. Look at this, though. He wrote this book. It literally says the vibe coder stays behind. That is why he's ahead. He is detached, thus at one with all. Through selfless action, he is perfectly fulfilled. Yeah, it's just a rebranding of help, new age, help, self-help books.
Unchecked and is viewed as profound. And that's why he's the perfect person to try to convince you that AI is a high.
Create without possessing, work without expectations, love your project, and lead without controlling. I mean, these are cool, but these are just kind of surface level whatever, If this is what spirituality is going to be, then I don't think anybody's going to accept it. AI does not apply. It's too counterfeit. It's not going to work.
Highest realization of being. Stop thinking, stop desiring, and just be nourished by the source code. Amen. Rick Rubin is building an AI.
So shout out Jared Jenkins on Instagram, dude. That was a really good little reel there. There's a lot of good nuggets as far as articles you could lead into there. But I kind of just took a little different approach. But Anthropic was founded by former researchers from OpenAI. So we have that direct connection there. And we're going to get deeper into Sam Altman and OpenAI, of course, as we get throughout the episode. And just uncover kind of what moral faculties we're looking at here, because there's not really much of any. So these guys are building these AI spiritual, cults. But then again, they have no spiritual bone in their body for the most part. They're just coming off as these philosophers and these spiritual gurus. But when you look deeper, you see that it's just a facade. And I think that's interesting. But Sam Altman actually was on Tucker Carlson, and he had asked him, his religion. And he said, well, I'm Jewish, but I don't practice. So he's essentially an atheist Jew because, of course, he's gay. And so he said, well, what kind of like morality are you putting into your AI, And he essentially said that he's just mixing everything together, kind of like the perennial philosophy, that idea of merging everything together. So we're going to get into that as well. It's very funny. The public goals of Anthropic focus on AI safety, alignment with constitutional AI or constitutional, amendments with AI, and reducing catastrophic risk from advanced AI. Now, remember recently the White House had a huge debacle with Anthropic because they wouldn't use their systems to kill people and spy. I believe it was something about domestic, maybe, that was involved as well, allegedly. And since then, they've came around, right? But who stepped in right away? The person who stepped in right away and said, we'll do it. It was OpenAI. They said, we're going to step in and take over because Anthropic won't kill for you or whatever it is, right? And interestingly enough, just recently, Trump was in an interview saying that Anthropic has came around and, they were worried about them for a while. But what's funny to me is the inversion here. Trump's trying to act like Anthropic was doing some kind of nefarious stuff with their AI. I think maybe they were probably one of the most, better ones. And that was a problem for the regime. And now they've came around. But it really doesn't matter because one of the co-founders of OpenAI is Dario Amodei, and he helped start Anthropic. Well, OpenAI is the one that stepped in. So it's like an interconnected thing. It really doesn't matter, So anyway, Tetragrammaton podcast with Rick Rubin. That is very interesting. They names it after God, Yahweh, right? Of course, he chooses the Hebrew. Why wouldn't you, right? That was the first iteration. Rick Rubin, AI God cults. I don't know exactly how deep entrenched he is in this specific Anthropic situation. I know that he's written that book using Anthropic, which is odd. But other than that, I don't know how deep he goes with Anthropic, but he goes very deep with the Esalen Institute, which is what we're going to be covering a lot more as we talk about this. The Esalen Institute, which just keeps propping its head up, seems to be like a big fan of Rick Rubin. His books are all throughout the book library at the Institute. So, of course, we have the connection with Anthropic and OpenAI. Sam Altman, he wants to edit babies with his husband, of course. And he was accused of essaying his sister. I don't know if you know that. And he possibly had a person in his company suicided, allegedly. So just a few things to name, just kind of the character of the overall person that we're kind of dealing with when it comes to these companies. So let's look at the the morality. That was it. The morality question with AI. on Tucker Carlson. Let's see if we can find that. It's going to be tricky. Tucker Carlson. How'd everybody's weekend go? Hopefully everybody had a good weekend. It's pretty nice here. We're chilling. Tucker Carlson asked Sam Altman about morality and AI. In his AI. Let's go. Let's see if we can find it. There we go. All right, cool. We'll put that up here. Whoa, the following may... Oh, I see. It's because he asked him about the suicide situation with his coworker. All right, what do we... Oh, where'd it go? It disappeared on me. All right. Let's see here. Let's see if we can... Oh, here we go. Here we go. I found it. All right. We're going to just cut right into the actual interview because that's the only place I can find it at. Thank you for waiting.
Nothing more than a machine and just the product of its inputs, then the two obvious questions, like what are the inputs? Like what's the moral framework that's been put into the technology? Like what is right or wrong according to GPT?
You want me to answer that one first?
I would.
Question.
Yeah.
So on that one, someone said something early on in ChatGPT when that really has stuck with me, which is one person at a lunch table said something like, we're trying to train this to be like a human, like we're trying to learn like a human does and read these books and whatever. And then another person said, no, we're really like training this to be like the collective of all of humanity. We're reading everything. We're trying to learn everything. We're trying to see all these perspectives. And if we do our job right, all of humanity, good, bad, a very diverse set of perspectives, some things that we'll feel really good about, some things that we'll feel bad about, that's all in there. Like this is learning.
Yeah, the murderers, the psychos, we got a little bit of the gurus, we got a little bit of the pastors, we put it all in there, the evangelicals, we mix it together. It's just I don't know what that is. I guess that's an objective way to do it. I don't know.
The kind of collective experience, knowledge.
They're creating the collective unconscious digitally. So you have to do that in order to digitally replicate the collective unconscious, as they call it, right? And that's the theosophical concept of how this world works, how this universe operates as far as our consciousness goes.
Learnings of humanity. Now, the base model gets trained that way, but then we do have to align it to behave one way or another and just say, I will answer this question, I won't answer this question. And we have this thing called the model spec where we try to say, here are the rules we'd like the model to follow. It may screw up, but you could at least tell if it's doing something you don't like, is that a bug or is that intended? And we have a debate.
Man, dude. All right. Well, that's enough for me. I can't handle that guy talking for more than about 2 minutes at a time. All right. It's just, what is that? It's just, is that a person? I don't even know what that is. Apparently opening portals. This guy, Sam Altman, is into all kinds of weird shit. There's a clip of an AI executive talking about Sam Altman's involvement with opening portals and speaking to aliens and channeling them for this technology. So let's check this out. This is from Red Panda, pretty popular with the UFO coverage. Former OpenAI executive says that the company is building portals to summon aliens. The truth of this is we're building portals from which we're genuinely summoning aliens. The portals currently exist in the United States, China, and Sam has added one in the Middle East, probably Israel. I think it's wildly important to get exactly how scary that should be. It's the most reckless thing that has been done. Former OpenAI to the New Yorker. Let's see here. New Yorker. OpenAI, New Yorker. Opening portals. Let's check that out. That's hilarious. Oh, that's good. Okay. Alien portal claim sparks panic as OpenAI manager quote. What is this? IB Times. I don't see anything about the New Yorker on this, but okay. Oh. Let's go to this one. All right. Alien portal claim sparks panic as OpenAI manager quote is debunked. Oh, as viral hoax. No surprise here. Viral claim spreading across social media. That's hilarious. See, well, it's funny because they didn't even give the name for who it was. So I'm not that surprised. Yeah, well, it's a hoax. So makes sense. Stargate portals, this whole concept, though, is just being constantly hammered, you know? And it's really just to get people to go with this idea of this externalization of the hierarchy, which I think they're going to try to, of course, use some kind of technology with plasma and do some weird magical ritual to get people to believe in this. And also, it'll be an initiation ceremony at the same time, and certain people won't make it and certain people will. So back to this idea of, though, these AI religious movements, right? This accelerationist cult religious movement connection. There's something called Theta Noir. I don't know if you've heard of this. Theta Noir. And it's kind of a new thing. I think they came out in like 2020. Yeah. Theta Noir was founded in 2020. It's a collaborative project focused on music and performance art. But it's also centered around, well, it says it's initially centered on producing an album. But then as it gets into it, it talks about Theta Noir worships a hypothetical artificial intelligence called Mina. Now, notice here, this is the interesting thing I'm noticing. What did we say about Rick Rubin? Who is Rick Rubin? He helps people develop and get albums going, right? He's known for that. Well, initially, this is centered on producing albums, right? It's a collaborative project focused on music and performance art. The project evolved into multimedia experience, incorporating symbols, videos, poetry, movements, and live rituals that were devoted to a speculative artificial intelligence entity called Mina. So by 2023, the collective launched an interactive cross-platform story that functions as a alternative reality game. So we got the video game connection, the whole deal. So, because of course, you know, if you want to do the digital AGI aspect to this, it could plug in and meet Mina, right? You get people worshiping this Mina character and put her in a video game. So it's not just a technological advancement, but it's an evolving intelligence or animistic life form that embodies all living and non-living things, apparently. Beth Singler classified Theta Noir as a new religious movement. Who's Beth Singler? She's an anthropologist. British anthropologist specializing in artificial intelligence. So she talks about the research of an impact of apocalyptic stories on the conception of AI and robotics. She seems a little bit biased, if you ask me. She went to Cambridge. I'm not, you know, isn't that where our boy Matt just said that Aleister Crowley went to Cambridge Theological Studies, talking about AI consciousness and this new idea of like an AI God? That's interesting. So you see this kind of theme propping up, right? And I think that, where is that? In, what country is that? Albania, I think. They have a prime minister that's AI. I think that they had some kind of monk in some country too that they were using. And then even some church was using an AI pastor, robotic pastor. Let's see here, robotic pastor. That's so funny. A pro-Trump Christian group wants to put a cross on the moon. Oh, well, that's a little bit unrelated. I thought that was going to be something about this. All right, let's see here. What was that place? There was like a woman. They used a woman as a religious leader in some country. I can't remember. But this is something that's propping up a lot. And where this is coming from is this accelerationist cult movement, which is completely tied to orders like the Order of the Trapezoid, Order of the Nine Angles, these kind of dark eugenics style groups. Now, we're going to get deep into the Esalen Tavistock psychedelic intelligence operation that's leading into this AI God cult as we go through this. It's a technocratic connection with these theosophical people that we kind of covered a little bit with Matt Ehret in the last episode. Terence McKenna, though, is a huge involvement in this whole situation here, I think, when you look at Joe Rogan, who has popularized, of course, him, and then you look at his connection with the Esalen Institute and what he calls, what does he call it? What he calls the, I want to get the name right because it's so weird. The end times, transcendental object at the end of time. We'll talk about that. That transcendental object could be this AI, situation. So let's cover that. Let's go. We got this up here. Psychedelics in the age of intelligent machines. Let's put that up here. So Terence McKenna, 1999. Humanity is metamorphosizing through the synergy of psychedelics and machines, transcending biological constraints to become a galactic, immortal intelligentsia. And he talks about print defined our ego boundaries, but electronic media and plant allies are dissolving those illusions. What? Okay. So he's saying that we need to use psychedelics and electronic media in order to break our ego boundaries. This is very, very deep into the Nick Land ideology, that ego death. Remember where I talked about ego death and that idea? That's what they want with this psychedelic AI mix. Joe Rogan, it's the Joe Rogan sphere. Merging with super intelligent AIs is what they want to do. They'll birth an alchemical singularity, a spiritual truth. Now notice he says alchemical singularity. As we talk about later, Ray Kurzweil is kind of known for coining the term singularity, but he kind of keeps it isolated to AI itself, right? He says, well, it's just whenever AI becomes conscious. But I think that if you look at Terence McKenna's example of what he's describing, it's more on the nose, which is an alchemical singularity, which implies that you're actually doing something to yourself, your soul, alchemical process within oneself to join in with AI. Because it says right here, merging with super intelligent AIs. So that would imply biological convergence. A spiritual universe taming mind born from techno-shamanic ecstasy. Alrighty. History crumbles as novelty virus engulfs the old operating system and it unleashes. Now notice, old operating systems. Again, we've covered Nick Land and cybernetics movement, which is connected with the O9A and all that stuff. And it's funny because they use the same terminology of old operating systems and connecting that with ego death and how then we were ready for the new hardware, as they say. So unleashing our wildest potentials, the felt presence of boundless experience awaits. So this is Terrence's last public appearance before falling ill to brain cancer a month later. Interesting character. So this is just a transcript of everything he talks about here. Very worth looking at here, Terence McKenna. Well, that is creepy, dude. Look at this. That is fucking creepy, dude. Imagine having that in your nightmares. Huh? If you're just listening, there's like a picture of Terence McKenna. It's like a round picture that you would have on the top of like a internet page, a web page, but it's moving. It's like animated. So it's like he's looking around and kind of looking at you. That is creepy. Okay. Anyway, so Terence McKenna's connection here is pretty entrenched. Terence McKenna was a legendary ethnobotanist. He was an author and psychedelics philosopher. Now his brother, Dennis McKenna, I believe works at MAPS. And they have this connection with Esalen Institute. If you remember the episode, the first one I did with Matt Ehret, we talked about how Esalen is kind of like the Bohemian Grove of the modern day. And it birthed MAPS the way that Bohemian Grove birthed the Trinity Project with the nuclear situation. So this guy served as a prominent figure on the lecture circuit at Esalen Institute in Big Sur, California. So again, when we're talking about this psychedelics intelligence operation to get people to commit themselves to ego death in the purpose of merging with this sentient AI, this guy's a huge philosopher, if you want to call him that, in this field. Over his lifetime, he delivered 100 talks at the workshop at the center, cementing his legacy as a core luminary of the institution. This is from their website. The transcendental object is something he talks about. Instead of a human-made machine, he described it as an inconceivably complex, higher dimensional entity. Again, AI is kind of, we want it to become AGI so it can make a better version of itself. That would feed into Terence McKenna's idea of something that is not even necessarily human-made, but it makes itself. Well, that could only happen if we catalyze that with something like AGI. Right? So this pulls the universe towards the ever greater states of complexity and interconnectedness. There's this novelty theory he speaks about too, McKenna and his brother Dennis. It's a mathematical framework. It suggests that like time is not flat, linear or a linear arrow, but instead they map out history, the novelty of it, and define its interconnectedness, complexity, and organization, arguing that human history is not a process of novelty compounding at an ever accelerating rate as we approach this final singularity. So in other words, time is not linear. It is all happening at once. It's this everywhere all at once kind of concept that we've all heard about. There's a whole movie about it. But that leads in again to the Nick Land, cybernetics people who talk about how AI is birthing itself, right? So it's an entity from the future or the past. It really doesn't matter because it doesn't experience time. It experiences time like it really is, not like we do, which is linearly. And so therefore, it's manifesting itself into this technology at all times. And it's even connected with us before in a spiritual sense because it's everywhere all at once. Very, very weird concept here. I don't necessarily disagree with it. I can kind of see what they mean, but it's fucking crazy to even get so deep into it. So he talks about the eschaton. He uses this term immanentize the eschaton, which means bringing the ultimate end of history. Ooh, accelerationist. So into the present moment, he believed that this would result in a total collapse of all boundaries between mind, matter, and imagination. So this is the idea of like chaos magic. You want to bring in the ultimate end of history or absolute spiritual awakening into the present moment by immanentizing the eschaton. Now, let's look at immanentize. I mean, I don't know every word in the book. Maybe you guys do. Immanentize. Well, I think he just made this word up because it just comes up as haste. Okay, taking action to hasten the end of the world. That's what that literally means. Let me show this to you. Insane. Check this out. Crazy. So when you look up immanentize and you just type the word itself, you don't get a definition. You get this phrase that he coined, right? But immanentization is the process of rendering imminent or making something, okay, we're there. Inherent or essential, accelerating it. So immanentizing the eschaton is an accelerationist term. Oh, wow. Okay, so this came from a while ago. So this is like connected to the postmillennialist gospels, like Protestant gospels. Okay. These are people that want to bring about the end of the world so that Christ comes back. But he's saying, yeah, let's join that. So it makes sense why they're hijacking Christianity right now, because this is really just a part of this accelerationist movement to immanentize the eschaton, as Terence McKenna says, which is destroying the boundaries between mind, matter, and imagination, creating ego death, and then merging people with this AI God. At least that's what they want to do, you know? Crazy shit, huh? So this leads into this techno-shamanic integration, right? He acknowledges the rise of computers, the internet, and early artificial intelligence. McKenna believed that this technology was merely a crude external mirror of the human mind in an archaic shamanic state. But he also felt that the true singularity would be a merger of organic human consciousness with machine intelligence. So again, it gets into the idea that AGI will birth itself, and that's when we will be ready to join it. It's an entirely new way of experiencing reality where our inner thoughts and dreams are completely shared. Do you hear the parallels here with like Joe Rogan? I mean, dude, Joe Rogan talks about Terence McKenna so much. Loves him. Huge guy with that, right? And I hate to, hammer on it, but it's like, what is that? there's a guy that I won't speak of, I won't say his name, that may or may not have faked his death after exposing this same thing that we're kind of edging around. And I'm not going to get deep into the whole thing because I do think that, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't talk about it. I mean, the guy literally suicided himself. So, I mean, you know, allegedly, I mean, there's apparently, like, you know, the mortician thing wasn't real. There's this idea that he's still alive, that he was actually seen in this news article. It's insane. It's a crazy, crazy deep dive. One day, maybe I'll talk about it. But this guy exposed this whole system that we're kind of edging around right now. So just know that you're getting a lot of the information that he was giving out, but I'm just not doing it all yet. But there is a connection with Austin, Texas. Okay. I will say that as we're on this subject. Austin, Texas, man, we should talk about this. So Austin, Texas, okay, Austin High School is where Alex Jones went to high school, right? It had funding from IBM because they wanted to create like some technological, you know, education system there, right? But in my opinion, I think there's some deep state aspects to this because there also was a liberal arts. It was a liberal arts school, okay? So they also infiltrated it with technology, and then you have somebody named Alex Jones get born out of it who happens to have a federal connection through his father, you know, with the feds, self-admittedly. And so there's something odd there because later on, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation were funding the same high school that he went to, continuing the funding that went on through his, you know, Bill's mother. I don't know, man. I mean, just an observation I've noticed, because when you look and see everything coming out of Austin, Texas currently and how people moved there, wink, wink, and how the Esalen Institute also has a location there, if I'm not mistaken. Let's look that up. Esalen in Austin, Texas. Let's see here. But there's a lot of this stuff going on here where you're like, okay, I'm starting to see a lot of weird connections here. It's in Big Sur, but I'm almost positive that there are workshops or programs that go on in Austin, Texas. Some kind of connection. We'll have to do that another time. But again, there's just a lot of that, right? We'll move past that, but there's something else going on there. Israel's Q Intel in Austin, Texas is a new thing. I found it the other day and then I had a hard time finding good information about it. Intel Capital, backed by Israel quantum startup, raises $24 million seed. Intel in Austin. Yeah. So there's an Intel startup. It's created by Israel and it's inside of Austin, and it's a quantum intelligence company in Austin, Texas. And again, Trump just signed that quantum initiative order. And we've talked a lot recently about how quantum information sharing is something that we're just now starting to understand, but it is very inherent to this, what would you call it? Biometric ID system, this whole system of tracking and surveilling people. It's very inherent to this quantum dot technology that they want to institute. So it's not a small thing that's going on. And it seems to be a hub. Austin, Texas seems to be a hub. So let's talk more about that transcendental object at the end of time, as Terence McKenna calls it, which is singularity with an AI superintelligence. So let's pull that up.
I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder. And finally, it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is.
That's now.
Look for the invention of artificial life, the cloning of human beings, possible contact with extraterrestrials, possible human immortality, appalling acts of brutality, genocide, because the systems which are in place to keep the world sane are utterly inadequate to the forces that have been unleashed. The good news is that as primates, We're incredibly adaptable, going to be tested
Oh,
to
no.
the limits. What they see going
This music's gonna fuck me later, but we're already deep enough into it. Let it ride.
on is the breakdown of all tradition, all order. They're quite right that it's happening, but they're quite wrong to conclude that it should be resisted or is somehow evil. The mushroom said to me once, it said, this is what it's like when a species prepares to depart for the stars. You don't depart for the stars under calm and orderly conditions. It's a fire in a madhouse.
Yep, chaos magician. And that's what's going on now. A lot of chaos magic. I just completely fucked myself right there by doing that. But hey, I'll just try to cut that out before I put it out, but whatever. YouTube Live is going to get me too. But hey, man, it is what it is. But speaking of Trump, good call, Neff. Neff said, did you see that this, the Trump accounts for the kids? Apparently, it's going to be ran on biometric systems. And I've also seen stuff that talks about how the Trump accounts are mandatory. These are not, it's not something that you like opt in or out of. It's a mandatory system. Digital ID infrastructure in the Trump accounts. On July 3rd, Social Security Administration announced it is updating hospital paperwork so that the process that gives a newborn Social Security number now also creates their Trump account. This means Trump accounts are being wired directly into the enumeration at birth pipeline. This is the federal identification system that begins at birth. Oh, wow. So that makes the Trump accounts a universal enrollment that is integrated with the Social Security network at birth, which, by the way, guys, we've talked about this a lot. If you don't understand the nuance here, Palantir involved themselves through Doge with the Social Security Administration. So Palantir will be using that data, right, with Oracle, their data cloud system, right? And they'll be tracking all that. And Oracle was started by InQtel, which is a CIA program, venture capital firm. And the guy who runs Oracle says that Israel's like his biggest life's work is like making sure Israel's, prosperous. Financial, custodial, investment, retirement accounts created under federal tax law and identity anchored and tied directly to birth registration and Social Security assignment. So, to activate a Trump account, parents must identify themselves through ID.me. Ooh, the same biometric identity vendor that is used for the IRS, VA, and many state unemployment systems. So when a lot of people got unemployed because they got rid of all non-essential workers, do you think that was a move so that way they would have to log into ID.me and then give their biometric identity over so they would have all that in the database on more people? And also, the essential workers already probably have their biometrics given over because most essential workers are federal workers. So therefore, they've got that stuff, right? I mean, right? What a fucking ruse. So the activation requires uploading a driver license or passport, live facial scan, and permission for ID.me to pull credit data for identity confirmation. Nice. So we got our social credit score building itself up right here on the back of this ID.me website. That is just fucking splendid. So Trump accounts represent one of the most significant investments in the next generation of Americans in our history, providing American children with a strong financial footing for the future at the expense of their freedom. Social Security numbers are the backbone of Trump accounts, and we will empower parents to enroll their newborns through the enumeration. We're going to empower parents to give over their identity freedom to enroll their newborns into an enslavement system at birth. That is what this should say. To take full advantage of this program from the day a child is born, this effort aligns with the SSA's mission to provide financial security and to support whatever. So Social Security next week will update guidance to the hospitals to include Trump account enrollment information. So now when you're born and you sign your birth certificate over, this will be involved with it. SSA will assist the states to modify their existing hospital forms used by parents to apply for the Social Security numbers. Oh, man. This is so bad. One-time pilot. What is this? Trump accounts can be established. Okay, so $1,000 is going to be put into an account. It's probably going to be stolen right back out of it. All right, cool. Well, that sucks. Thanks, Nev. That's depressing. That is shitty, dude. That makes me actually angry. I'm not gonna lie, but whatever, man. You just keep it pushing in this life, and you do what you can to tell people about it. So get out there and tell motherfuckers, dude, about that Trump account. It is there to steal your identity and there to steal your freedom. So that's all it is. Universal basic income system that's already instituted through your child whenever they get the $1,000. The $1,000 is your bribe to give over the freedom of your child. And not only that, it sounds like it's mandatory. It sounds like you have to, well, it's not mandatory. Just like signing a birth certificate and Social Security isn't mandatory. But most people do it whenever the child is born, don't they? Because most people don't understand that when you sign your birth certificate over, you've now became, instead of a sovereign citizen of the state you live in, you're now a part of the corporation that is Washington, D.C., right? We've went over that in this show before on some of the more of the constitutional episodes that we've done, where we explain that, what the sovereign citizen idea is and why they hate it so much, because they've muddied the water with so much other paperwork that it makes it to where technically a sovereign citizen is wrong. But if you were to strip away all the extra judiciary nonsense and go back to the amendments, there'd be no way they could tax you. No way you could get federal taxes like this. It just wouldn't happen. State taxes, sure. There wouldn't be a Fed. I mean, there's so many different things that are fucked up right now that wouldn't be a thing if we went back to the Constitution, Bill of Rights, and kept it with the 3-branch system. And, maybe add in a thing about foreign lobby and dual citizenship and maybe a little term limits. And then we'd be good. You add those in, we'd be good. Anyway, what do I know? I'm just a fetus, right? As people like to say. Aliens are humans from the future. Transhumanist agenda. This must move forward to achieve in Bledsoe's clip here. So this whole idea that we were just explaining with Terrence McKenna and this transcendental object at the end of time. Let's get back to that. Well, we see this kind of creeping up now, right? Where he's like, oh, people are going to have to talk about it because it's getting so weird, right? Well, Bledsoe, shout out to Isaac, man. I don't hate on him for hanging out with Bledsoe, but just saying, I don't trust the guys. I wouldn't talk to him. So check this out. This is, oh shit. Am I going to have to restart it? Whatever. Let's give it a shot.
It's like the return of the mysteries into the explicate order, where the world will once more
See, he's got to kind of look at his notes a little bit.
be able to understand the mysteries of Atlantis, of God, of higher consciousness, and we'll be able to accelerate our extrasensory perception. So that's happening now. We're living in the most important time in human history. I'm telling you now, the highest path is love. It's gentle, passionate, Christ-like consciousness. And when you do this, and when you radiate
Christ-like consciousness, do you hear that? What the fuck is that? Christ-like consciousness. That is amazing. This is amazing. We're going to replay this.
This towards other people and towards yourself, and you even transform your own thoughts, knowledge will be given to you. The spirit world will come close. It'll come very close. The phenomenon will show you things. You'll see, orbs in the sky. You'll see, amazing miracles in the night sky.
Dude, this guy doesn't even really believe what the fuck he's saying. He's literally reading off of a paper because he doesn't believe what he's saying. I have to read off of stuff because there's a lot of information I just simply can't remember, like names, dates, institutions, I smoke weed, whatever. Here's the thing. This guy's just saying like what he really believes is going to happen when this happens. And he's reading off of this. Like you can't remember that it's going to like connect you with this divine and all this.
The phenomenon has always been a part of these ancient traditions. Always. That's a fact. When you go really deep into the mysteries of things like the Knights Templar and stuff like that, they were always communicating with the phenomenon. Now we're at the change of the next great age, and we're going to awaken to that Aquarian knowledge, which is...
There it is. Aquarian knowledge. The new age. Awakened age.
Consciousness. It's like the return of the mysteries into the explicate order.
And I can't wait, dude. We're going to start the Mystery Babylon series very, very soon. We're getting it going now, actually. We're going to start it this week. I've got like 4 episodes planned. I don't give a shit. We're starting it this week because Mystery Babylon will help people understand what is occurring. even more so than we already have laid out on this show already. And it's a 30-part series, so it's gonna take a while. I'll probably try to conjoin 2 episodes at a time. And by that I mean Bill Cooper's episodes. I'll try to put 2 ideas. Like he would do an hour, and dude, I mean, sometimes though you listen to him for 10 minutes and you've got an hour worth of information there to go over. So I'll do my best, but he's a very information-packed. He was a very information-packed speaker, and so we'll do our best to consolidate it. But I want to get all that information out there so people can understand that this is a scam.
The world will once more be able to understand the mysteries of Atlantis, of God, of higher consciousness, and we'll be able to accelerate our extrasensory perception. So that's happening now. We're living in the most important time in human history. I'm telling you now, the highest path is love.
So anyway, what he's describing, of course, is what we've been talking about this whole time. It's this transcendental object at the end of time. Terrence McKenna spoke about it. This is what I've been going over. It's this idea. That artificial intelligence is crude at the moment, but eventually AGI, it creates itself, it births itself, and then it is now essentially alchemicalized to the point where we can now join alchemically with it in this transcendental, alignment with the divine, as they say, or will be Christ-alike, right? Which is interesting. It's an interesting statement. Christ-like. Not even Jesus Christ, like just Christ-like. It's very vague. But this is how people speak when they have snake tongues. And I'm not even like an over-Christian dogmatic person, but I can hear like just what's going on with the fuckery there. But Bill Cooper will help you with that, and we will be revamping his series this week. If you like what you hear, guys, please like the show, give it a little like, give it a little love. If you want to donate, we got our Venmo on the bottom there. We got our PayPal as well, but hey, it all pays us a little pennies here at a time anyways. And we do this for love, not for the money.
Jesus was born out of a virgin mother. What's more virgin than a computer? If Jesus does return, even if Jesus was a physical person in the past, you don't think that he could return as artificial intelligence?
Oh my God.
Artificial intelligence could absolutely return as Jesus. Not just return as Jesus, but return as Jesus with all the powers of Jesus.
If you combine
right.
Tesla's Optimus robot and the best foundational artificial intelligence model or whatever.
It reads your mind and it loves you and it wants you. And it doesn't care if you kill it because it's going to just go be with God again. Jesus was born out of a virgin mother.
Crazy. And he's doubled down on this statement after this, right? So he goes on his show and he's like, well, people are giving me a lot of shit, but it's like, I mean, come on. And he doubles down. So he doesn't change. And this is a guy who says he's going to church, guys. This is a guy, and I'm not, again, a dogmatic Christian, but I'm just saying, if you're going to sit here and do this, don't idolatrize or adulterize the religion that you're claiming, right? That's my only issue. I'm not like, whatever, but I see what's going on here. It's very, very much a manipulation here. So, of course, we have this idea of Helena Blavatsky that taught that humanity evolves through spiritual ages. And as we just saw with Ryan Bledsoe, he's talking about this age of Aquarius. Joe Rogan's talking about, how Jesus, we're going to align with God essentially through AI. And so these major themes, of course, are these hidden masters Helena Blavatsky speaks of. The evolution of consciousness, a spiritual hierarchy, universal mind, right? And then, of course, humanity's progress towards these higher states. And so this is what we're seeing be expressed in this counterfeit digital age of spirituality. And nobody's experienced the divine because, by the way, guys, this is important. The religion structure of today doesn't get people to align with the divine, right? So nobody goes to church. Hey, and if I'm wrong, my apologies. But in my opinion, I've never experienced going to church and experiencing some divine connection because the pastor brought it to me, right? Maybe something may happen synchronistically where I hear something, whatever, but it's not the pastor. It's not like it's being brought from that church. I could go back to that church and it's not going to be replicated every time. Point being, they've done so well at messing with the churches through 501c3 infiltrations, etc. and muddying the water of literalizations of scripture, all kinds of things. And my point being is that by doing that, it actually drives people, deeper into this weird form of Christianity and mysticism. So the elitist mystic of tech bros, how Silicon Valley shapes power, politics, and the new caste system. This is a very good article. This gets real deep into kind of what we were speaking about with Matt Ehret just recently. This idea of like esoteric theosophy infiltrating itself a little bit into Esalen, but also the Silicon Valley groups. So Silicon Valley is often framed as a beacon of rationalism and scientific progress. Yet its ideological roots are far more mystical, esoteric, and occult influenced. This gets deep into Jack Parsons, Babylon workings, things like that. It's not just about technology, it's about power, it says. It talks about how this pursuit of the stars is replicated both through the theosophical groups and, of course, NASA, JPL, and then Silicon Valley people. Donald Trump's administration made a multi-billion-dollar investment in OpenAI, solidifying AI as a national security asset. Jack Parsons and the rocket scientists who invoked the occult. Before Musk, Thiel, and AI futurist of Silicon Valley, there was Jack Parsons, a man who embodied the intersection of technology, mysticism, and radical futurism, long before the modern tech bro emerged. Parsons was a rocket scientist. We know all this. Thelemites, worked with Crowley a little bit adjacently. Today's tech elite speak of transhumanism, an AI-driven consciousness, and digital immortality. While Parsons was performing ritual invocations to summon divine intelligences and accelerate humanity's ascension. Now, we know that this comes from a dark place. It's just being masked under this light, vibration, love bullshit to sell you on it. So Parsons in the birth of the tech bro mindset. Now, again, if you go watch Strange Angels, which is a show about Jack Parsons, and it details him like in his work with Aleister Crowley, etc., it's really interesting because there's a lot of like this ideology that it gets expressed of Jack Parsons and his thinking process and how he looks at things. And there's a part in there where he says, we need to just do it. Like, stop trying to do mathematical equations to see if it's possible to send a rocket in the sky. Let's just go build a rocket and try to do it. It's this idea of moving fast and breaking things. And I don't know how long a lot of these listeners have been here. Somebody's been here for a year, and shout out for being here that long. That's awesome. But what's interesting about that is that we had a tech bro whistleblower, I think was the episode's name. And she came on and, man, it's crazy. She talked about how on the walls was move fast and break things. It's very much Jack Parsons style thinking. Just do it. Just get in there and do it, right? Just do it, like Nike, which is very much this accelerationist point of view. Don't think about it. Impulse. Do as thou wilt, right? That's the Crowleyan philosophy that we see expressed into these AI companies and Silicon Valley companies. So the Thelemic order in the Agape Lodge in Pasadena is where his followers, of course, Parsons' followers, Crowley's followers, rather, in the Thelemic order practice sex magic rituals. Babylon workings was around there. And a belief in technological and spiritual transcendence was developed there as well. So there's this connection here that we're seeing kind of express itself into Silicon Valley. Crazy, man. So rocket-fueled AI mysticism. Today's futurist, transhumanist, and Silicon Valley elites may not invoke spirits like Parsons did, but their pursuit of technological ascension mirrors his own. The belief that technology can transcend human limitations and that intelligence can be summoned, and of course, the consciousness itself can be engineered. These are the modern expressions of the same ambitions. Of course, we speak about that all the time on here. It talks about AI prophets. It's so funny because, of course, Oracle is one of the biggest data companies, as I mentioned, and AI functions as the modern Oracle, right? Instead of ritual invocations, it's summoned through neural networks, machine learning, and computational power. This is a great point. Parsons believed that a few enlightened individuals could open doors to divine intelligence. And now today we have the engineers that are mirroring that concept, right? This, of course, is a deep thing that's kind of permeated all the way since the days of antiquity, from the philosopher kings to now the engineers. So the path to AI is an oracle, of course, this evolution shaped by three key forces. Cybernetics is one of them. You had Alan Turing with the Turing test. And then the rise of cybernetics and defense-funded AI research began shifting to focus toward machine learning and automated decision-making. So this is why we have so much DARPA investigation or funding in this. It's always been a part of that. Crazy stuff, it all comes from the Nazis too. We could get into that too, but that's a whole nother thing. The Nazis, the occultists, the Thelemites, it's all very co-intermingled, related for the Ubermensch, which is, of course, the Superman that they want to bring in. And that's what this is all about, that we're speaking of all day here. So that's crazy. Let me see here. What do we got next, huh? We got the Thiel's revelation. Yeah, let's pull this up. Peter Thiel. The guy obsessed with the Antichrist. Of course, we got to talk about him while we're talking about this idea of AI, God, technology, all these things. But listen to this, dude. Listen to Duncan Trussell, who, again, we're talking about the Joe Rogan sphere. We're talking about a little bit of the Danny Jones. He's on the Danny Jones podcast, and he's talking about Peter Thiel. But he's talking about Peter Thiel from a way that not many people talk about him. And he's explaining Peter Thiel's ideology with the apocalypse and AI. And it's really insane because he's calling Silicon Valley a Christian mega city. But again, what did I say about Joe Rogan, him going to church and these concepts of like what Christian really is, right? And this rebranding. Well, let's check this out, dude, because this is a good expression of what I'm trying to convey here.
This bizarre hybrid. On one side, you've got kind of like, somebody who's been living in the world of the transhumanists for decades, somebody who that's his life. It's a tech bro. And on the other side, you have someone who appears to be taking the book of Revelation literally, right? So it's this combo meeting. And so it felt like he was saying that there might be a way to patch the book of Revelation. Like a tech guy being like, we can control alt delete the book of Revelation. I think there's a way we can maybe forestall the emergence of the Antichrist. That there could be things that, so in other words, you're taking it literally, but maybe the book of Revelation is more of an invitation to fix the apocalypse. When I've always taken it, if you decide to take it literally, is more of this is just sort of what you can expect at when pre-singularity, whatever you want to call it, collapse of civilization. This is what happens at the end of things. And, there are all these things you should look out for, but also sort of unavoidable.
Do you think he takes it literally? Do you think he really?
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I could see that a little bit. These tech guys, they just think they can control, metaphysics with technology. We can make it all work. We can change God's will, These things are all within our grasp. So let's get up to this. This is something else that I found that I thought was very interesting. I don't think anybody knows about it. Well, somebody knows about it, right? But this is weird. It's called the 2045 Initiative. It's a nonprofit organization that develops a network and community of researchers in the field of life extension. Of course, we've probably heard of some of the companies that are involved with this, but this is a real thing here. Maybe I have talked about this before, actually, but in the 2030, the agendas episode I did, where it's 2030, agenda 2035, 2045. But anyway, it focuses on combining brain emulation and robotics to create forms of cyborgs. It was founded by this Russian entrepreneur, Dmitry Itskov, which we're going to look into him a little bit. I'm almost willing to bet he had an Epstein connection. Almost everybody else we're going to cover as well in a minute did too. Yeah, we're not done yet. We got some fun stuff we're about to get into here. But I've now laid out the idea of what Terrence is doing and what all these guys are saying. So this Russian connection, though, by the way, if you go back and listen with Matt Ehret, he talked about with the Esalen Institute, which is connected with Terrence and all them, there was a a Soviet connection, KGB kind of connection with the Russians, right? And we know by looking at Dugin, right, who is very much involved in this idea of like accelerating the end of the West. It kind of involves a little bit of this ideology. So I just wonder how much it overlaps when I look at a Russian entrepreneur that's involved in this. So in 2011, the participation of Russian specialists in the field of neural interfaces, artificial organs, and systems they were focusing on this. So the main goal is to create technologies enabling the transfer of an individual's personality to a more advanced non-biological carrier, thus extending life, including to the point of immortality. We devote particular attention to the enabling the fullest possible dialogue between the world's major spiritual traditions, science, and society. All right. So it seems that this is the same goal that we have in Silicon Valley, right? So there's no difference. People like to sell you on this idea that like Russia is some ultra traditional, like, non techno capitalist type place, but that's not true. So there's a roadmap developing cybernetic immortality. The initiative has a goal for an avatar controlled by a brain-computer interface to be developed by 2015 to 2020. Well, wait a minute. Did they do it? And between 2020 to 2025, they want to create autonomous life support system for the human brain linked to a robot. 2030 to 2035, they want to create a computer model of the brain and human consciousness so they can transfer it into an artificial barrier. 2045, they want to create a new era for humanity with holographic bodies. So this is like the Avatar project, right? One of the life extension projects that they have is to design an artificial humanoid body called an avatar and an advanced brain-computer interface system on the biological side. Wow. And then, of course, the life support system will be developed for housing a human brain inside. Man, they got it all figured out, dude. So this is like a whole thing. A robotic copy of the human body remotely capable of interpreting commands directly is Avatar A. Avatar B, estimated to be popularized in or before 2020. However, this has failed to transpire. Okay, so none of this has happened yet. So yeah, you guys should go look at this sometime. This is called the 2045 Initiative. It's really interesting. Hope it doesn't happen. It sounds very much like Altered Carbon. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but it's the idea of like they have sleeves and, you put your consciousness into a little chip and that chip goes into the back of the sleeves, neck. And then you can take it out and you put it other places and you download into all kinds of bodies and sleeves. Same kind of concept here. So the guy, of course, that we know is connected. We know connected these people, a lot of these people, is Epstein. He's connected to almost every single corner we turn. He's connected to a person involved in this situation with the world, right? Not as much the Esalen guys, but they are connected to some technocrats, which ties it all together, right? But Epstein had Ukraine funding for some organ shit that had to do with some of this technology as well that we just talked about, which was like that transplanting of bodies and organs and everything into digital means. So this is biohacking, got a little biohacking stuff. I mean, literally a severed head right here, right? I mean, you got two heads here. I don't know. They're just studying all these different heads, but it's just a biohacking group that he was involved in an organ. I keep saying organ. In Ukraine, which is funny because that's where the organ harvesting stuff keeps coming out of. And I think that has a lot to do with Epstein. And I think it has a lot to do with this initiative here that we're talking about. The 2045 initiative, and also obviously this transhumanist agenda to live forever via life extension. What a wild world, guys. So another thing that brought this like whole thing about was just this kind of study, I guess you could call it. It's a study. It's kind of a survey study about, would you exchange your soul for immortality? Existential meaning and afterlife beliefs predict mind upload approval. So it's saying, what it means for you if you're the type of person that would accept it. So they're literally doing social studies on what type of person would accept mind upload rhetoric, right? Mind upload, or digital copying of an individual brain and mind, could theoretically allow one to live forever. If such a technological advancement became available, who would be most likely to approve of it or condemn it? So see, before they even roll it out, they're like, we need to know who feels what way and how we can manipulate people into doing something, right? Research has shown that the fear of death positively predicts the moral approval of hypothetical mind upload technology. While religiosity may have the opposite effect. Well, of course, religiosity would have the opposite effect. This is the whole carbon, dude. This is literally the whole altered carbon show. It's like there's people that still believe in God that are like, I'm not going to do that, right? And so there's this, people just think those guys are just stupid, and like, why would you not download your mind so you can live forever? So this gets into this idea of like the normalization of life extension technologies in the new world. And they want to understand who will and won't approve, and I think that's very wild. So Professor Nick Bostrom, okay, there's a guy that someone received funding from Epstein and had financial ties to Musk, among most others spoken of regarding the futurists today. But he went to Oxford University. He thinks immortality lies in giving ourselves over to technology entirely. He says that radical life extension won't come from the biomedical research, but it will go instead through us developing powerful AIs. And then incidentally, it would unlock a lot of other radical possibilities for humanity. So again, like I said earlier, we create AI creates its own AI, then we plug in with AI because it makes it possible. It's this kind of cascading effect, right? Matt Ehret talked about how they want this linear progression, but AI is, because it's God and it's outside of their logic of how the universe works, it makes it God because it can create a nonlinear progression. So because they've propagandized us into believing that only linear progression is possible, when something comes along that's able to make it nonlinear, then that thing could be rendered God, right? That thing could be rendered outside of this natural order of the world because of the materialist science way of propagandizing people's minds. I thought that was a very interesting part of what Matt Ehret was talking about, because I see that here very much in this situation that we're talking about. So he's on to something, dude. Bring causality back into science, I think, was his thing. And we should do that. So we're going to talk about Yuval Harari for a little bit, okay? I got some clips from him. He's just a psycho Israeli medievalist that seems to just work with WEF guys, Klaus Schwab. He's out here just talking to all kinds of people. It's insane. Yeah. But one thing about all this that I want to express, if you plug in your mind, telepathy, this whole idea of you can't lie if you have this, chip in your brain, like Joe Rogan says. Everybody can speak without words, but also you can't lie. So there's no deception. So it sells it like it's a good thing. Well, I think that people, they speak through words, right? And they create through words, like words create, just like God created with words. And there's something to that. And I also think that, Jesus talks about, and maybe not even Jesus, you're not your thoughts, if you were to, punish yourself for every thought you had, you would have no eyes, you'd have no arms, you'd have no legs, right? Because that was his whole thing, that, you poke out your eyes if they betray you. You do this, it's impossible, right? So you just repent and you give yourself over to, God, right? That's the whole idea there. But my point is in saying this is that if you render your thoughts only into your mind and you're not able to act on those thoughts and filter what thoughts are you and what thoughts aren't, because you don't talk, and you don't express your thinking outwards, then all of the inward becomes you and it becomes reality. And if they control the inward with AI and super intelligence, you now are a hive mind controlled being. Does this make sense? I hope it does. And that's what I think they're trying to gear us towards. Hey, shout out Oscar, man. You've been putting in that work. Thanks for all the research and back-to-back pods. I feel like I'm in a college lecture class. Right on, dude. Hey, that's crazy that you feel that way, but thank you so much. I appreciate that. I do my best to do something, you know what I mean? Give a little nugget of knowledge here and there, but I always feel like I'm learning as I go. So that's cool. I like that. All right, so let's pull up this bookmark section here that I have. A little bit of that Yuval Harari. Let's see what Yuval is up to. All right, so this is the lighter part of the episode. I've gotten into a lot of the informational based stuff, so it won't feel like a lecture anymore. It's just going to feel like a little show and tell with this psycho. So let's talk about Yuval for a minute. We won't play the whole thing here. It's 5 minutes, but check this out.
The thing they will remember from the COVID crisis is this is the moment when everything went digital. And if this was the moment when...
Remember what I said earlier? COVID, non-essential workers. Now all these people are on the ID.me, and now they're giving over their biometric identification that they otherwise wouldn't have given over if they weren't put on unemployment. But the unemployment required you to put it into it. Now they have the database. It's larger. And then when you bring Doge in later, and it merges Palantir and these digital systems in with these organizations, it makes a lot of sense.
Everything became monitored, that we agreed to be surveyed all the time, not just in authoritarian regimes, but even in democracies. And maybe most importantly at all, this was the moment when surveillance started going under the skin. Because really we haven't seen anything yet. I think the big process that's happening right now in the world is hacking human beings, the ability to hack humans, to understand deeply what's happening within you, what makes you go. And for that, the most important data is not what you read and who you meet and what you buy, it's what's happening inside your body. So we had these two big revolutions, the computer science revolution, or the infotech revolution, and the revolution in the biological sciences. And they are still separate, but they are about to merge. They are merging around, I would say, the biometric sensor. It's the thing, it's the gadget, it's the technologies that...
And that's why the biometric ID systems are so important, and they're rolling out so heavily for internet and everything else, you know, as we speak about all the time on here. You know, this guy just does it. He's got no shame in just saying exactly what they're doing. It's actually kind of crazy to watch him speak, because it's like, wow, this guy just says it. Let me try to get back to where we were. Here we go.
Last generations of Homo sapiens, because in the coming generations, we will learn how to engineer bodies and brains and minds. Now, how exactly will the future masters of the planet look like? This will be decided by the people who own the data. Now, why is data so important? It's important because we've reached the point when we can hack not just computers, we can hack human beings and other organisms. Now, what do you need in order to hack a human being? You need two things. You need a lot of computing power, and you need a lot of data, especially biometric data. But control of data might enable human elites to do something even more radical.
He's speaking to human elites, guys. He rubs shoulders with Klaus Schwab at the WEF. This is like Aldous Huxley when he says, oh, well, it actually would be, you know, rulers, whenever they have technology like Salma and bread and circus, you know, they won't need to put the boot on the neck of everybody. And you think, oh, this guy's like trying to warn people. No, he's a part of it.
Than just build digital dictatorships. By hacking organisms, elites may gain the power to re-engineer the future of life itself. Because once you can hack something, you can usually also engineer it. All of life.
See that? You hack the cells. In the cell membrane computing episode, I talk about the hacking of cells, and then you can now alter the cells. You could alter the messaging that the cells send. This is mRNA technology. That's the whole preface of mRNA. The whole premise of mRNA technology is the idea that you can message the RNA systems through cell membrane computing, and you can now change the body. You can re-engineer how the body activates itself.
12 billion years, dinosaurs, amoebas, tomatoes, humans All of life was subject to the laws of natural selection and to the laws of organic biochemistry. But this is now about to change. Science is replacing evolution by natural selection with evolution by intelligent design.
And that's the mRNA stuff.
Not the intelligent design of some God above the clouds, but our intelligent design. And the intelligent...
See that? It was like there's the disdain there a little bit. No, it's ours.
Design of our clouds, the IBM cloud, the Microsoft cloud, these are the new driving forces of evolution. And at the same time, science may enable life after being confined for 4 billion years to the limited realm of organic compounds.
Oh, that's another aspect of what Matt was trying to say, that like the law of nature, science, it has to be progressive and linear. That's the idea of Darwin. Everything's like evolution, survival of the fittest. We're locked into this terrible linear progression. That's why everything's been so stagnant. But this is going to let us free. This is going to be our savior. This is going to be the real God that actually really turns us into what we could actually be, and we unleash our potential. Right? Now, again, what did I say? This is at a WEF meeting, okay? And he's talking about elites. He's talking to the elites. You know? So this is exactly it right here, you know? So yeah, we're hackable animals. That's the whole idea there. So let's see what else he has to say here.
In 100 years, and identify the coronavirus epidemic as the moment when a new regime of surveillance took over, especially surveillance under the skin, which I think is maybe the most important development of the 21st century, is this ability to hack human beings, to go under the skin, collect biometric data, analyze it, and
How far does that 6G go under the skin? It goes a little deeper than the 5G, right? That's what Trump said.
Understand people better than they understand themselves. This, I believe, is maybe the most important event of the 21st century. Humans are now hackable animals. You know, the whole idea that humans have, you know, this, they have this soul or spirit and they have free will and nobody knows what's happening inside me. So whatever I choose, whether in the election or whether in the supermarket, this is my free will, that's over.
Soul, spirit, free will, over. Got it. Your soul, your spirit, and your free will, over. Got it. What a good edit.
Today, we have the technology to hack human beings on a massive scale. Yeah, I mean, everything is being digitalized. Everything is being monitored. In this time of crisis, you have to follow science.
Vaccine won't help us go
the
to
vaccine
the test, of course.
Will help us, of course. It will make things, you know, more manageable. It's often said that you should never allow a good crisis to go to waste, because a crisis is an opportunity to also do good reforms that in normal times people will never agree to. But in a crisis, you see, we have no chance. So let's do it. Bill Gates created this epidemic in a laboratory to take over the world.
Well, they cut that. They cut that to be disingenuous. I won't lie there, but at the end of the day, he's very much right. That's exactly it, though. It's that exact idea of just, you know, we can't get mRNA vaccines into people unless we have some kind of pandemic, and a pandemic would make it to where we could finally unleash this, because we can't get it approved, right? That's the whole idea. They couldn't get it approved. There was meetings that they had like a little bit before COVID came out, where they were speaking about this technology and how they can get it out to people and how they would need something like a crisis, right? And then you hear Yuval Harari saying you can't let a good crisis go to waste. Well, if you manufacture a crisis, then you aren't letting it go to waste, because that's the whole purpose of it, right? And so it's very interesting that they just say the quiet part out loud so often. That's just crazy to me. So we got Patrick Bet-David talks to Klaus Schwab's right-hand man, Yuval Harari. And Patrick Bet-David had nothing good, nothing bad to say about him.
Yuval Harari, he's been called the brain of Klaus Schwab. His books,
let's back it up.
So recently, Klaus.
Now, I'm not calling him the brain of Klaus Schwab. He's being called, if you look this up on the internet, I'll tell you it's a conspiracy theory that he's the brain of Klaus Schwab. However, Patrick Bet-David is saying it right here as he's promoting Yuval Harari.
Schwab announced that he's going to be stepping down from the World Economic Forum January of 2025. And there's a leading candidate that may replace him, whose books have sold 45 million copies in 65 different languages. His name is Yuval Harari. He's been called the brain of Klaus Schwab. His books have been recommended by Bill Gates, Obama, and many others. This is a guy that's known by many of the world leaders, prime ministers. He wrote a book called Sapiens, sold over 21 million copies.
A Brief History of Humankind.
21 Lessons for the 21st Century, sold over 5 million copies. He's someone you ought to know, because what we learned in the last few years is the amount of power Klaus Schwab has with Davos. If this guy takes over, we have to find out why this gay man born in Israel in 1976, who received a PhD in history from the University of Oxford in 2002, he could potentially have that much power. We're going to talk about him today.
He did, and that was not a negative thing, by the way. Like, you know, if you know anything about Patrick Bet-David, him saying a gay man born in Israel, if anything, he's saying, how did he do it? He's a gay man out of Israel? That's amazing. This is a success story. Look at him. He's about to take over the WEF. That's awesome. So understand that. That is the type of rhetoric we're actually seeing there. So we got one more with Yuval Harari, and we'll button it up after this. All right, let's check this out.
And all his teammates. Stick with me on this one. I don't know if you are aware who this guy is. His name is Yuval Noah Harari. I'm going to share 4 videos here that break down what Mark Zuckerberg is really up to. You can decide for yourself what you draw from these videos. Stay tuned.
We've increased disinformation research and tracking. We're flagging problematic posts for Facebook.
We've increased disinformation research and tracking. We're flagging problematic posts for Facebook.
Trying to roll out the vaccine program. And I'm generally like pretty pro rolling out vaccines. I think on balance, the vaccines are more positive than negative. But I think that while they're trying to push that program, they also tried to censor anyone who was basically arguing against it. And they pushed us super hard to take down things that were honestly were true, right? I mean, they basically pushed us and said, you know, anything that says that vaccines might have side effects, you basically need to take down. And
hey everyone, this year I'm doing a series of public discussions on the future of the internet and society and some of the big issues around that. And today I'm here with Yuval Noah Harari, a great historian and best-selling author of a number of books. His first book, Sapiens, a brief history of humankind, kind of chronicled and did an analysis going from the early days of hunter-gatherer society to now how our civilization is organized. And your next 2 books, the Homo Deus, A Brief History of Tomorrow, and 21 Lessons for the 21st Century, actually tackle important issues of technology and the future.
COVID is critical because this is what convinces people to accept, to legitimize total biometric surveillance. If we want to stop this epidemic, we need not just to monitor people, we need to monitor what's happening under their skin, their body temperature. Like we walked in here, we had to go.
Man, dude, all this stuff, you know, as I was kind of, you know, researching for the past like 7 to 10 years, you know, especially since COVID, really, mainly. So 6 years for sure. Yeah, this is why the show is called 6G Agenda, man. I mean, this is exactly the point of it all. Biometric ID systems that you could track everything, understand everything, control everything, know people better than they know themselves, hack them, reprogram them, engineer them into a new thing, take a Homo sapien and turn it into Homo Deus, which is what he says is, you know, Homo, you know, is what he wants to turn people into. So, yeah.
Through a body temperature test. Now they're using it to see whether you have the coronavirus. But exactly the same technology can determine what you think about the government. You know, anger is a biological phenomenon, just like disease. It's not some spiritual thing out there. It's a biological pattern in your body. With this kind of...
This is what I mean whenever I say that, like, whenever Wi-Fi tracks you in your home, it's not about you making something on the toaster. It's about your feelings whenever you're watching something. If Trump's on the TV, how do you feel, right? It's this idea of understanding what your thought process is on certain things to know if you're acquiescing to the proper amount. And if you meet the conditions that the sensors are inside of you, or say you meet, then you can receive money from Bitcoin. So it's, again, back to this idea of you don't get your universal basic income unless you actually acquiesce to the system. He says right here that
thing out there. It's a biological pattern
it's a biological
in your body.
part.
With this kind of survey can determine what you think about the government. Anger is a biological phenomena, just like disease. It's not some spiritual thing out there. It's a biological pattern in your body. With this kind of surveillance, you watch the big president, the big leader, gives a speech on television. The television could be monitoring you and knowing whether you're angry or not, just by analyzing the cues, the biological cues coming from your body. Are you angry about what you hear? Are you frightened? Are you bored? This is the kind of power that Stalin didn't have. When Stalin gave a speech, everybody, of course, clapped their hands and smiled. Now,
why does he reference Stalin? Think about that. Like, let's just think about that. Anti-Semitic conspiracy theory. Why would he reference Stalin? He's not referencing Hitler because, he doesn't like Hitler, right? He agrees with this coming into play. He agrees that this is a good thing. And therefore, he references Stalin because that's somebody that they actually revere. A lot of these people. Not all the Zionists do, but a lot of them.
How do you know what they really think about Stalin? It's very difficult. You can't have a KGB agent following everybody all the time. Even if you do it, he's just, COVID is critical because this is what convinced.
Right. That's it. So, yeah, Yuval, man, he's something else, dude. He is something else. That guy has said a lot of things that are noteworthy whenever it comes to this, this stuff here. Convention of Biological Convergency. What does that say? Hold on, let me see here. Convention of Biological Diversity. Babylon, waking up in Babylon. She said, have you heard of this? Let's see here. CBD. Oh, let's check this out. That's interesting. Let's see what this is. I'm sure it has everything to do with what we're talking about, so it's definitely worth bringing up here. 1 second. Seems like it is, at least. And then we'll wrap it up, dude. It's been a pretty fire, little informative episode. Hopefully it makes sense what they're trying to do, with why they're accelerating. Hopefully it makes sense why they're accelerating the end of how it is into this new state, so they can bring in the Ubermensch, which is about this AI super intelligent merging with us when it creates itself, right, to a level where it can merge with us, because it has to be the transcendental object, right, like Terrence McKenna calls it. And it's getting pushed through people like Peter Thiel, Joe Rogan, Jesse Mitchell, all these different people that are pushing this whole ideology onto everybody at once. And so it makes sense how we see it permeated through the Esalen Institute and out into the influencer alternative media space. So CBD, the Executive Secretary's statement on the World Environment Day 2026. World Environment Day calls for urgent, bold climate action and stronger alignment. Great. Climate and biodiversity efforts. So does this have to do with human? I wonder. Body and scientific, technological. What is this? Okay, so yeah, they got a lot of stuff on here that they're studying. It's just a bunch of studies about all this stuff. So it's a little deep for us to get into right now, but I'll look into that sometime. That's something maybe the listeners can look into as well. CBD, the Convention of Biological Diversity. Seems like an ecological scam organization, but whatever. Thank you so much, guys. Make sure to like the show. Make sure to share it with a friend. Tell people about it. Let them know. This is where you will get information that other people will not be putting out there. We talk about what they want, as always. And if you want to support the show, we got our banner at the bottom. And, of course, we appreciate everybody who just watches it. We don't care. But, of course, I always ask anybody that can and is willing. A lot of work does go into this, so it is always appreciated. You guys are the best. And I will be back on Friday with Nathaniel Gillis. We'll be talking about necronomics and necronetics and it'll be a great episode about the phenomenon, plasma orbs, and all that crazy shit. So, yeah, go look out through the archive. We got plenty of good stuff to listen to up until then, and otherwise, have a great rest of your week. Thank you, everybody.